Hello everyone. Welcome to AYBU Learning Advisory Program online video series. I'm Gamze, and with this video we're hoping to help you get ready for an online session. As an overview of this video, we're going to talk about how to promote autonomy through reflective dialogue, how to get ready for an online session, and how to deal with emotions. I'd like to start with the reminder of three principles. As you know, in advising, we have three principles, and the first one is it's not about you. You need to focus on the learner, and you need to leave your assumptions at the door as the second principle, and no judgments, just take a neutral position. After reminding you of the principles, we can tell you that our primary target as advisors is to promote learner autonomy by conducting an intentional reflective dialogue, which starts with having asking reflective questions. These reflective questions require the learner to think before giving a response, as they are powerful questions. We can see some examples in the slide as how do you feel about your learning so far, or if your learning were like climbing a mountain, where are you at now? So this is a cliche metaphor question that we ask to our advisees. And more powerful one is, what if your entire life was a storybook? What title would best fit? It's a really powerful question even to answer spontaneously. Just to talk about the basic things to keep in mind within advising sessions, there is no golden answer which works for all learners. That's why we're not having some injections for everyone within advising sessions. And neither the learner nor the advisor knows which direction the dialogue is going, because the advisor does not predict where the dialogue is going, and the reason is we cannot predict learners' response. Therefore, advising is an organic, a dynamic process that we can consider. And the basics, when it comes to basics of advising, the basics of creating a reflective dialogue is just to listen and accept, listen and accept. So we need to listen to the learner, meaning really listening, not hearing. Listening to the learner and accepting the learner's feelings and situation. When it comes to adding reflective questions, this is a triangle, like asking questions and then listening and then accepting. It's so easy to follow those steps. Actually, we need to identify acceptance is really important, just to help learners reflect on their feelings and reflect on the situation. I love this definition of the role of advisors. Actually, it's been clearly defined as it is. The role of the advisor is not that of a questioner knowing the right answer, but a participant in a dialogue looking for a joint answer. And so we can understand that we are not questioning all the time, just to know the right answer, but in a way co-constructing the dialogue with both parties together. And just to prove this, we have a scenario that is adapted from collaborative conflict resolution at ICCCR Teachers College of Columbia University, where we have a setting like a student comes to you to talk to you about a situation, that your goal, your mission is to listen and to formulate three reflective questions to help her reflect deeper on herself. So in the case that a student comes to you and says to you, I'm trying to memorize new words by using a vocabulary book, but it's like doing a never-ending task. What should I do? So if this is the case, what type of questions would you ask? How do you formulate your three questions to help the learner reflect? So the thing is, as an advisor, the um, important point in this statement must be never-ending task. But while we're formulating questions, we need to keep in mind the questions themselves are as important as the timing of them, plus their order, actually. So we need to, first of all, pay attention to learners' feelings and emotions in the first place. In the previous case that in the present case that we're talking about, that never-ending task is a good point to focus on about the feelings. So what does it feel like doing the never-ending task is a good question to ask. And when it comes to the second one, second phase, we need to support the learner to analyze the issue altogether by focusing on the learning process. Here it comes as, what do you usually do? How do you usually study vocabulary? Or what is working or what is not working well in your study? Or is there any pattern in your learning environment that you follow? Type of questions can be asked to analyze the issue. And then we need to guide the learner to create a positive vision. So we can say, if you were able to master the basic vocabulary, how will it influence your learning? Or in general, how will it influence your life in general? Can easily create a positive vision. Or if you already know the student well, you can even focus on one strategy of linking of advising. You told me before that you're good at playing the guitar. If learning new words is like mastering how to play the guitar, how will you do it? Could be a good way of linking two activities. As we talked a few minutes ago, not only the questions but also their timing and also their order is important in advising. So if you just happen to ask the most powerful question starting with why, you can easily come to a point that there is no answer coming to you. So starting with the less powerful questions, with yes set questions, usually yes or no questions, which questions, and then going up to more powerful ones with more details like who, when, where, or what, or how, and coming up to the top, asking more powerful why questions after building rapport, after going deeper and deeper. It could be a good idea to come up with deeper reflection. Actually, just to show you an example, when you ask, were you able to carry out your plan as an advisor? A yes/no question. No, I was busy. I couldn't concentrate on my study well. When was the most difficult time for you to study? When studying late night at home. And what makes it difficult for you? Usually I can't concentrate when I sit at my desk. You go on with more details. How do you feel about it? So when you get more details, you can ask about the feelings now. Every time I study at my desk, I feel like I'm going to fail the exam again. There is some kind of a think about sitting at desk. Why do you think you couldn't carry out your plan then? So this is questioning the situation. Maybe it is because this and that is a kind of cliche or not cliche, a sample dialogue between an advisor and advisee. So in order to get ready for an online session, it's also important for the advisor to feel ready for an online session. So we need to ask ourselves or pay attention to ourselves as advisors as well. So when you meet with a student for the first time online, how do you think you will feel? So your feelings are important. You need to analyze your feelings and you need to prepare yourselves. What do you think you should do before the session, during the session, and after the session? These are the critical questions to think about. Actually, let's think about our intention. Why are we doing that online session with the student? It's just to get to know each other. As you can see, it's not get to know only the advisee or the student, but each other. Just because dialogue is between two people, we shouldn't be creating an atmosphere where we are asking questions all the time, like interviewing and questioning. We can create a comfortable environment for the advisee to open up by sharing our own feelings and things about our lives as well. And explanation what this online session is about is another key, just to clarify the situation and to motivate the student to participate actively is also essential. So how do we focus on in the very first minutes? We have some students who have very bitter experiences in the past, or even in this global conditions that we're having. The ones we're talking to will not probably be very positive, but they will be most probably sensitive, and some people may be really good at judging people, whether they can trust or not in the very first minute. Our role as advisors is just to pass the chemistry test between both sides. So we need to build rapport to have a good dialogue. Actually, that's why. Actually, this is how can we do it? This is something that we need to think about. Advising is starting way before asking the questions. Actually, advising session starts right after you see the learner. So it's the moment you see the learner that you start the session itself. So you need to be observing the learner's body language, eye contact, facial expressions, and all the details will give you how nervous, how comfortable, how worried, or how confident is the student. And this will take you to welcome the learner and talk about what you see. So say what you see is the first thing to do. We need to welcome the learner, and we need to start with a chit chat, a small talk, just to break the ice. And of course, the student will have some learning issues, and he or she will like to talk about the AG exam issues of hers. But we shouldn't try jumping into the main topic in the beginning. So we can say what we see as, you're wearing a thick jumper. Is it cold inside? As everybody is inside. Or, you have a Peanuts t-shirt. Which is your favorite character? It could be a good way of just starting starting a good dialogue, actually. This way, you can hear the voice of the advisee. So this is going to make you understand how comfortable, how nervous, how what the feelings of the advisee are. And then, as we said, the order of the questions is important. We should just start with yes set questions, as isn't it a nice day? Were you able to spend time enjoyably at home today? Just to understand how the general mood of that advisee is. And as a few minutes ago we talked, if we see, if we observe the learner still looking too nervous, we need to create an open and comfortable atmosphere by not only asking questions but also sharing our own things. So we can just say, I'm staying at home with my family these days due to that social distancing. I'm trying to manage my time effectively, both with my kids and family members, reading and listening for pleasure, making art, playing games. And I'm glad that I have time to watch my favorite video TV series these days. It's Big Bang Theory. So this is just going to create a more comfortable atmosphere. Even a smile and a reason to smile and laughter, actually, which is going to um, uh, show you that you have passed the first chemistry test. So once you see the first smile, even a laughter in the initial phases of the session, you're ready to start the session. You can understand. Even if you have time, you can share life stories. Ask her the life story, not starting from childhood, of course. How is this social distancing affecting you? Or have you been able to find new ways of being and begin to think differently? Could be some good questions to ask in the beginning. Not about the learning process, but the feelings of the advisee. So sharing stories builds rapport and establishes a special relationship between advisor and the learner. So this is what we are just looking for in these advising sessions. And not surprisingly, when we are asking lots of questions about emotions, we need to deal with emotions. So most probably these days we won't be facing very positive ones, but we have a cliche activity, that we have a cliche question to ask. What color are you feeling today? So this is a metaphor question that we usually ask in advising sessions. But we have some ways to deal with emotions. Why emotions are we are focusing on? Because emotions affect learning in significant ways. People don't study if you don't feel like studying. So cliche. We need to help learners to develop and awareness and control their emotions. We need to welcome emotional responses in advising sessions, and we have hopefully we have some cliche steps to follow to make it a meaningful session actually, and these are the steps to follow. First, we need to help the learners to express themselves, and then we need to help them find the root cause of the emotion, and we need to be aware of boundaries. We shouldn't try to fix problems, and we need to proceed at the learner's pace. So let's deal with them one by one. Helping learners to express themselves is we means that we shouldn't just focus on the negative ones but positive ones, but we should focus on both sides. Most of the time people don't express their emotions openly. They won't say that they're happy, they're sad, they're frustrated or so. At this time we use an advising strategy that is called intuition. So you use intuition to help the learner voice emotions. So you feel frustrated that you can't make time to study, hey? Or so you felt proud of yourself for having the courage to speak up. Yes? By asking for permission, can I make an intuition right now? And getting the answer yes. Do you think you're feeling frustrated? I guess you're feeling frustrated. Or you must be feeling proud of yourself. Type of intuitions will help both sides to voice the emotions actually. By asking metaphor questions, you are already indirectly helping them voice their emotions. And we need to consider the language which needs to be appropriate for expressive emotional states, effective states actually. And the second one is find the root cause of the issue. You need to tune into learners' feelings. So looking out for verbal and nonverbal clues and some patterns that he or she is using, and asking powerful questions, and helping them find connections between actions and feelings will help them find the root cause actually. We can just ask we can help them find connections by asking such questions like, what kind of feeling arose when you are cutting corners? Like a guilty feeling type of an answer may appear about feelings, as you can see. And our boundaries is just because we're talking about emotions, people think that we're psychologists, but we're not psychologists. Try to keep the session related to language learning in that way. And if it gets too personal and they feel so comfortable that they'd like to talk to you about their private life, you can openly say that it's getting too personal and you're feeling uncomfortable, and keeping the track more related to language learning. So you can just be sympathetic and explain that you're only trained for language related issues at that moment. When it comes to having trying not to fix problems is the another key thing to do, actually, because we may face tears or anger or even some physical response that we were not ready for. We just need to wait kindly, and we just during advising sessions as advisors are having an advising strategy which is mirroring. We don't have to mirror all the emotional responses, actually, if they're too negative. So, but the thing is, we need to be empathetic and we need to try to tune into the learner. And for example, we need to thank the learner for their trust, if not being that empathetic. But we need to show our empathy by thanking, by complimenting on something relevant. So, thank you for opening up today. I know it's hard to be in that position. I'm glad you feel you can trust me. Really, could be a good way of supporting the learner. Usually, those emotional responses lead to really deep and meaningful and memorable sessions, actually. So, after those emotional responses, like tears going down, you cannot expect the learner to go on in the same pace. So you need to ask the learner if they want to proceed. In that case, when once a person starts crying, you cannot help them stop crying spontaneously. So take your time. Don't rush the learner. So silence is a great strategy, advising strategy that we use at such kind of things. And also, not looking in the eye of the student in tears. One side is in tears and crying, the other side is just silence. Would look a little bit weird, but using some repeating, restating, summarizing, empathizing strategies as usual will help the learner just refocus on what the issue is, and even take simple action that will make the feeling less painful. And what do we do after the session? Is just to do reflection. We usually keep records of the advisees. We have advisor notes just to follow their learning details. But in a teacher advisor case, we can just do self-reflection, because as we talked in previous videos, there is an internal dialogue that is going on. So this is some kind of a self-reflective process that we can keep it as a journal or reflecting with others, but we need to go on reflecting about the process. Those reflective processes could refer to asking questions like, what did I learn? How did I act as an advisor? If I could do the session over, how differently would I do it as an advisor? What was the most impressive about the session, and how did the session influence the learner, as far as I could understand from his or her words during the session. Reflecting with others is also helpful to understand the details. So casual office talks or workshops would be a good way of reflecting as well. And for the advisor notes, as we need to follow the students in person, we can take notes about what the session was about, what the learner was concerned about, what action the learner decided to take during the session, and what was standing out in the session, like repeated words or powerful phrases or characteristics, etc. And how about the learner's impressions and things you want to focus in the following sessions could be noted down by the advisor. When do we take advisor notes? Actually, we are not advised to hold a pen when we are talking with the student, because this might give the feeling that they are being judged. And this is also it might give an impression that the advisor is keeping a record and the student doesn't have to do anything about managing their learning. So just jotting down the keywords is going to be helping us to remember the advisee in detail later on. So if we have to take notes during the session, we need to ask for permission. Or let the learner know that you're writing what you're writing down. Actually, your AGE exam or midterm exam score jumped up to this and that. I need to write that down here. Or you declared that you're going to do A and B. Let me write it here that I don't forget to ask you about it next time. Could be some ways to express yourself as well. Before finishing the video, I'd like to remind you of the 3 principles of advising. As it's not about you, just focus on the learner. Please leave your assumptions at the door and keep an open mind, and no judgment during the advising sessions, just to keep a natural position. So thank you for watching this video. Keep calm and stay healthy. Thank you.